right, so it's also live streaming. Good to see everyone. We shall get started in just a couple minutes. I did put into the chat the spreadsheet we are going to be working from, as today is day 8. We're talking about operational expenses. So the spreadsheet is where you can start tracking your expenses. So we will touch on startup costs today, a bit of cash flow. So your homework tomorrow is to now come back with some of these things filled in, and we're going to talk about it and go through it. So today will be kind of a high level overview. I'll use a bit of examples. And then if you want to follow along today and start plugging in numbers, that would be great. And your homework will be to start putting in more numbers so that we can talk about it tomorrow. So we'll just give it a sec. We've got the recordings going. All right, and Richie, so the link to the spreadsheet I'm talking about is in there. So if anybody else comes in after, you'll be able to share that.
Yes, okay.
And you'll notice I'm in full bookkeeper accountant mode. I love spreadsheets, and I don't know how much others love spreadsheets. So it's my job to make you a lover of spreadsheets. So this spreadsheet that we're putting into the chat is the cash flow projections financial planning worksheet. So this, if you want to create a copy of it, just go to file and then make a copy. And then once you make a copy, you can name it to your own company. So if I said detailing nights test, and then you can make a copy. And then in your copy, you'd be able to put in your answers. So it does have some numbers in there already that I'm gonna use as examples as we go through. You will see the Y section has the previous days. So if you were taking notes on a piece of paper with a pen, feel free to, you can put them in here. This way you can track the different topics that we've covered. So the core values, the mission statement you can put in here, the vision statement, the big idea. And if you ever wanted to rewatch those sessions, we have them here as well. Actually, the big idea, let me put this in. Oh, but that's a test one. So while we're just letting a few more people pop in, I will grab this real quick. The big idea. All right. And then, so startup costs, we're going to have the replay here. The COGS, the cost of goods sold. We're going to do a bit of a refresher on there as we're talking about operation expenses. But the main one we're going to be working in is the cash flow forecast. And the cash flow forecast definitely starts with startup costs. So we're going to actually start here and then start plugging in numbers. So if there's anyone that doesn't have access to the spreadsheet, please let Richie know. She'll put it into the chat. And this can go away, I think. Did I lose anybody? Am I still here? Okay, good. All right. So the lifeblood of your business is being. And sorry, did Chris Beth join back? Did you
I'm
want to?
here. Yes, I'm here. Yes. Welcome everyone. As Ryan said, today we're going to be spending some time on spreadsheets, and I'm really excited to, yes, I'm really excited to learn and discuss what we're going to be covering today. So Ryan, the floor is yours. Dive right in.
Sweet. All right. So as I mentioned, and for those that don't know me, my name is Ryan Knight, one of the co-founders of the Afro-Caribbean Business Network. We work with entrepreneurs of African and Caribbean heritage, really to figure out what stage your business is in, and then help you create a strategy to grow your companies exponentially. And I'm also an entrepreneur. I run a company called Detailing Nights. So we provide mobile waterless car cleaning. So we go to people's houses or their offices, clean their cars on the spot without using water, and our plant-based eco-friendly cleaning supplies. And as I mentioned earlier, I'm a lover of numbers and spreadsheets because I feel like numbers tell the story of your business, and it is black and white. Typically, you can't argue with the numbers. Once you plug them in, then it helps you start making lot better decisions because you're using the real data from what's happening in your business. So if you're just joining the spreadsheet, you'll see this one. It should say template, make a copy, go to file, click on make a copy, and then at the end, you can put your name of your company at the end. And then when you hit make a copy, the new copy will have your name in it. And so this copy you can edit and put in your all your numbers and stuff, so you can delete it. So this is the one I'm going to be using as an example. So the one that says template, it has examples in here already. So when you make a copy, you can just delete it and put in your own examples. So with our companies, we definitely need to know what amount of cost we need to get the company going. So if you're already running, you want to start thinking of what is that next milestone that we need to hit and what will it cost to hit that milestone. A lot of times, if you're trying to increase sales, it's more about certain marketing that you want to do, or buying a certain piece of equipment, or hiring a person. You can use those as your startup costs for the next milestone. So it's like a project that you're working on. If you're just starting out, you definitely want to put in the startup costs. And even if you're already operating, it's a good example just to think back, what was it actually? Let me put these to the side so I remember what they are. Whoops. But then I want to show you how this tool works. So when you're thinking of the startup cost, and you'll notice even if you're thinking of a new project and what you need to bring in, so you want to think of, okay, for our detailing business, we didn't need a physical location, but we needed an office. So we put in that we're going to get a virtual office from Empowered for X. We're going to get an internet plan. And if you're following along in your own spreadsheet, if you know some of these numbers, put them in. I'm telling you, even if it's just a few of them, it's good to start just plugging in numbers one by one. And then as you come back or you go get more data, you can come in and fill in the rest. But anything that you know now would be good to put in. And so for us, if we needed to buy equipment, so we needed to buy car cleaning equipment like vacuums and steam cleaners and generators. So that's about 2,500. And then we needed initial cleaning supplies, so that was 500. And then we had to register our business, so we actually registered it. It was 200 registration. That was incorporation. If you're doing sole proprietorship, I think it's around $60. And we do have a whole section on that coming up in future days. So if you're still thinking of what type of legal structure to do, we are going to cover that. So business bank account, we were able to get one with Alterna Savings. And then we use an online booking calendar. So to initially set it up was $60. And then we were renting like a leasing a Prius. So that was $450 a month. And so if you're buying a vehicle, you definitely need to put that price in there. If it's going to be monthly payments, then if there's no upfront cost, you can leave this out and then put it in the monthly tracker. But for now, we're going to put the 450, and then we have to register our domain. So the reason it's important to do the startup costs, because now we have to figure out where that money is coming from. So for us, it's going to cost $3,800.55 to get the car cleaning business off the ground, and we'll be able to start operating. And so where it shows the owner's contribution, this is where if you have this money in savings, or if you're coming up with the money without having to borrow it, I would put in the amount that you have. So let's say we have 1,000 saved up. Now it'll show here how much money you actually are short. So if you're going to get a loan, let's say you're going through the ACBN microloan program and you're seeing that, okay, I need $2,800.55, $2,855. If you go through our program, it'll show it's supposed to calculate, yeah, the prime interest rate, the additional interest premium. So it'll show what your total interest is paying, which is now, I think that's supposed to be 10 in total. So yeah. And then it'll show the total repayment, and then it'll show your monthly payments. So it's good to know your monthly payments, because in the cash flow forecast, it's going to show that as an ongoing expense. So you'll see here, it'll show, okay, to get this business off the ground, I'm going to get these funds. I'm going to use a loan to get it. And then you're calculating how much the loan repayment is. So just to give you an idea of why it's important to put together a startup cost. If it's all going to be from your savings, by all means, you would not need a loan. So you don't have to, it won't calculate that for you. And for this one, let's say we're going to put in, I have $3,855 saved up. So I'm going to pay for everything. But if you do need a loan to help you get off the ground, then I would book a follow-up meeting with someone from ACBN or Empowered Forex to talk about capital options. So let me slow down here and just see. And so for your spreadsheet, any of these items, you can delete them and change them. So let's say you don't need to register a domain and somebody's like building websites. Oops. Website. And that's going to cost $1,000. So these fields will update in the cash flow projections. So you'll see I changed the business building a website, and it'll come here, but the website doesn't have a monthly cost. So it'll just be a one-time startup cost. And so that's where in this document, you can change everything, and then it automatically populates to the spreadsheet, and then we can track if it's monthly or not. So let me just slow down, see if there's any questions about the startup cost section before we move on to the operational monthly expenses.
Hey, Ryan. Hey, everyone. And one of the things that I just wanted to restate that you mentioned, Ryan, most of the folks on this line, I know you're running your business already. I think there may be one or two that haven't started yet. So this example that Ryan showed, definitely startup costs. If you're newer entrepreneurs, we're saying we need to understand what it is actually going to, be required for you to get this business off the ground. And this is where we were talking yesterday. We want not fake numbers, most accurate numbers. So what I've oftentimes encouraged people to do, call the insurance company, call around, see the price point that you get. So these numbers are accurate. So that's for my startup folks. And then for those of you that are running your business, Ryan did mention it, but we're wanting to be on this journey moving from how could I put it? Glory to glory, higher stages in our business, right? So the ask here is, what milestones are we moving towards next? Maybe you're a team of one and you're saying, hey, for me to get to that next milestone, maybe I need, additional bodies. Ryan, maybe you can speak to whether or not, this an additional salary line could be added there, for example, for that person. Maybe you need some new tools and equipment. And so you would change out those top items, as Ryan said, and putting those there. What are the requirements in order for you to move the business in advance, right? Maybe you're saying, listen, we need to be, marketing. And I know there's another marketing ongoing costs and line item in that way, but you're just about to budget for what is that next move in your company, right? So just keep that in mind. If you're not taking any loans, if you're not taking, those type of things, then that section isn't necessary for you. But perhaps maybe you're saying, listen, I already have a loan and I need to factor in it going forward. This would be a good place to put it in as well.
Absolutely. And one thing to keep in mind, this section is for things you have to pay right away. So if you're paying for something and it's not due, let's say to the end of the month, then we're going to cover that in the cash flow section. If it's upfront and you have to pay it to get the doors open and to start operating, you want to put it as a line item here. All right. So final check, make sure there's no questions. If there is, feel free to put it into the chat. So now the operational expenses, this is where you want to have either a bank statement. If you've already been operating, these numbers exist. They're typically the money that's coming out of your account. So I usually pull up my bank statement and go line by line and see what are the things that I'm paying for every month. So the first check, you're going to check on these startup costs because they'll pull in automatically, and any of them that will be a monthly cost, we're going to put them into this row here. So you'll see for month one, we pretty much calculate month one, and if it's ongoing, we just let it, it'll just auto populate for the rest of the months. If you do find it's something that's sporadic, you can change each month, but typically for our virtual office, it's going to be $35 a month. So every month we're going to be paying that. The internet, we're going to be paying that every month. So now for equipment, that we don't pay for every month. So it was in the startup cost section, but we don't put it in our monthly month one section. And you'll see it doesn't go into the other months either. So for cleaning supplies, this is where, yes, it is a startup. So we're going to be paying for initial inventory. But as we learned yesterday with our cost of goods sold, this amount is like inventory that's in on our balance sheet. So it has a value and it's sitting there. But when it's used, it's actually going to go into our cost of goods sold. So that's why we're going to touch on it a little bit today to see when you're selling, it gets calculated. So that's why it's not a monthly cost. It'll actually be an ongoing cost. But anytime you buy more, that's when it gets recorded. But so anything that you use to actually deliver the service, that's going to be captured in your cost of goods sold. And then so business registration, yes, that is just a one-time fee. So the business bank account, that's monthly. So we're going to put it in, and then that's going to be every month. Our booking calendar, same thing. We're going to put it in and it goes every month. And then the Prius payment, that's one time and goes every month. And then the building of the website was just a one-time fee, and we didn't have to pay anything ongoing. So this is from our startup costs. We just want to know which of these are monthly so that we can capture it. And then in this section, we want to start looking at what are all the other monthly costs that happen. So as I mentioned before, if you do have a loan payment, you should be capturing the monthly costs so that it's included in your cash flow projections. For ongoing marketing, this could include also your website hosting, or you can have a separate line for that. But this marketing cost, so if you're doing Google ads or Facebook ads, or if you have a marketing team that's working monthly, you can put that here and it'll show the monthly costs. If you have a business phone number, you can put that here. If you have insurance payments, so for us, we actually have two different types of insurance. So let's say we have auto insurance and then business insurance. So you'd want to capture both of these. And why did this not pull? All right, it was supposed to pull automatically. Okay, so this should be 8,400. Yes. So the business, so anything else that's in here, you can add it or just exchange one of these. So maybe you're not doing monthly marketing, but you have a person that you've hired. So anybody that's on salary or wages, you can put them here or here. You can exchange them out, and then you would put the monthly costs in there for them. And like I said, these costs, it's easier to find them on your bank statement. You can say, you know what, look at your previous bank statement and see what are the things that are coming out. And sorry, I have staff and salaries up here. So if you wanted to put in either the salaries or the benefits, you can put it here. If you're paying somebody, let's say 1,500 a month, and then you can put how much each month they're getting paid, and that'll pull in, and benefits if they have benefits. So for this section of the operating expenses, I did want to just pause there before we touch on the cost of goods sold calculation. So let me check if there was any questions. All right. And as I mentioned, if you're following along, that's great, but it is good to just start plugging in a couple things. So if you know some of the monthly payments that you have, I would put them into the spreadsheet and put the initial cost here. And then as you come back to it and as you're working on your homework, you can fully flush it out. But knowing on a monthly basis how much is going away from you is really important, because that's going to dictate or have an influence on a lot of the decisions you make around the revenue, and then the decisions you make about your revenue and your sales and your price points. That's going to affect like your cost of goods sold, and then all those calculations need to be higher than this monthly cost so that the business isn't going backwards, because a lot of times it might take a few months to actually feel it because you've been going backwards for 6 months, and then you look in your bank account and you know that you've been working very hard, yet the bank account is not reflecting that. Is typically because we're not tracking our cash flow every month, so that we're not seeing that there's negative months. And that's why even though you might have sold a lot or did a lot of work, the actual end cash flow, because people might not have paid or there's different factors that cause it to be negative, or the pricing is wrong, and this is where you can catch it. So that's why I love numbers in this sense, because it starts to tell the story of where the money is going, and you might have to make some difficult decisions. There might be subscriptions for business things that you're not using anymore that you can get rid of as you start to analyze your numbers. So I'm gonna pause real quick before I move to the cogs, so you can see on this spreadsheet how we can calculate the cost of goods sold. All right. So the key thing.
Before you
yes.
move on, did you just plug that profit number in there of 3870?
Oh, where was that? The total expenses?
No, under gross profit, the first line at the top.
Up here?
Yeah.
No, so this would actually pull from our sales forecast.
Oh, yeah. Okay, that was on another sheet. Okay.
Yeah, so we're gonna get to that. And that's where because typically, yeah, your gross profit, you want this to be higher than your total expenses. But knowing your expenses, that's why we do it in reverse, because when you know your expenses, then you can start to project how much sales do we need to do. So the sales forecast, we're going to touch on that just after we touch on the cogs. All right. And so this section might need a follow-up and a one-to-one. So if you kind of get lost or it's not really coming through, because your business will be different than, let's say, the car cleaning business, and how you determine the cost of every unit you sell might need some like deeper dive. But if you have an idea of one, you want to start with the labor. So you want to look at, for every unit that you sell, how long does it take you to create that unit? Sometimes it gets tricky when, let's say, you're designing pins and you can do a lot of those pins in an hour. You actually need to figure out, okay, but dividing the total amount that you can do by the hour is how much time it takes for each one pin. But for us, let's say we do car cleaning. I know the service takes 2 hours. We would put that it takes 2 hours, and the cost we're paying is $22 an hour. So every car that we clean costs us $44 in labor. So that's one element of the cost of goods sold. So that's something that we would put in the cash flow oh my gosh, this is off. The cash flow forecast. Let me just fix this. And if any of the rows are weird, you can just double click over here to fix it. So when we're looking at the cost of goods sold, this is where we can now put, okay, the labor cost per unit is going to be $44. But you actually have to tie it to the revenue. So this is where it's going to end up, but I'll show you how it ties in when we do our sales forecast. But for now, so actually this is going to be equal, oops. Oh my gosh, is that equal? Yes, equal to, so 44 times, so how many units we sell. So in this month, let's say we forecast that we're going to sell 30 units. Then let me press enter. So our labor is going to be that we calculated $44 for every car clean that we do. So the 44 times the 30 of our sales is going to equal 1,300. So we made 3,800, but it cost us 1,300 to actually deliver those car cleans. So the second part of the cost of goods sold is now how much supplies did we use every time we clean a car. And also, just before I jump there, you'll notice you can also calculate labor as a percentage. So if you know every single thing that you're doing or thing that you sell, you have to pay a certain percentage in labor, then you can use that as well. But the labor cost per unit is usually easier if you're just calculating the hours that a person does. So now the supplies, actually, any questions about calculating the labor? As I mentioned here, we're just looking at how much hours it takes to do one unit, and then we're just taking the total. All right. So the supplies section is a bit trickier because now, one, we have to outline how many supplies it takes to make the thing. So for example, with ours, we're cleaning a person's car. So we need, actually this should say car wash solution. And then we need our all-purpose cleaner, we need our carpet cleaner, we need our leather cleaner, we need the tire shine, we need the glass cleaner, and then this is the total, so we don't need to put anything in there. So now, when we're buying these supplies, yes, we're usually buying them in bulk, but we have to reverse engineer it to see how much of this supply, how much of this product do we use for one unit, so one car wash. So we're able to calculate that it uses 4 ounces. So now we need to calculate how many ounces are we buying. So a bottle is 16 ounces. So now when we actually buy the bottles, so this is where sometimes you want to sit down with, a Bernadette, a bookkeeper, or the accountant that does your taxes, or a representative from Empowered for X, their accounting team, or even just one of us, myself or Chris Beth, just to say, how do you buy your supplies? So for the detailing company, we would buy a bottle which has 150, I guess, ounces, and then this would cost us $500. So per bottle, so we're buying 150 bottles for $500. It costs $3.33 per bottle. Now, each bottle, which is 16 ounces, uses 4 ounces for the actual cleaning of one car. So this 4 ounces divided by how much it costs per bottle works out to 83 cents. So we know that every car that we clean, we're using 83 cents of solution in that car. And then we know we're using 25 cents of solution of all-purpose cleaner on the car for one clean. We're using 25 cents of solution for the carpet cleaner. We're using $2 for the leather cleaner, because the leather cleaner is a lot more expensive. It's costing us $12 per bottle, and we're using a quarter of that bottle. Oh, that's the wrong set. Yeah, it costs $12, and we're using, for every car that we're cleaning, we're pretty much using 25% of it. No, wait. Yeah, 20%. What's 2 divided by 12? Hold on. Oh, 16%. So yeah, so that $2 we're spending every time we clean a person's car, we're using $2 worth of leather cleaner, which we actually figured out. So that's where I will start to look and like, why is it costing us so much per bottle for leather cleaner? We're probably not buying it in bulk, so we have to get a way to reduce that cost, because you'll notice the other stuff we're buying is in bulk. So this is our most expensive product. And then also, why are we using so much for each card? So you see how the numbers start to make you think of what's happening in your business. So to continue, the tire shine as well, that's using 75 cents. And then the glass cleaner is using about 18 cents. So in total, and this should be totaling, sorry, equals sum. And then the sum should be these. All right. So the total. Oh, so this one down here is actually a different example. But the total right here, so you could just use this section up here. So for every car that we clean, it costs $4.27 of solution for the car. So usually you can even create that into a percentage. So for us, we charge 129, and then oops, would be 4.27 divided by 129 equals, so it's about 3% of our total cost for cleaning a car. So we're getting paid 129, and then 3% of that is the cost of the supplies. So when our pricing was a lot lower, let's say it started at $60. So 4.27 divided by 60. So we used to be paying almost 7% in supplies. So just by increasing our price, we were able to reduce the percentage of the supplies. And then our labor, again, that went up, but these are the two main numbers. So we would take this number and then multiply it by the sales forecast, or the sales forecast to give you the cost of goods sold for supplies. And again, because there's a lot of calculations there, if you ever get stuck, this is where it's good to tap into the resources that you have. Don't feel like you have to stay stuck. Reach out to Empowered Forex, book a call, say, I'm calculating this. I just need help so that I can understand my cost of goods sold and put it into the spreadsheet. Because then once you have it in the spreadsheet, you're good and you can start to fine tune it. But if you get stuck and just ignore it, that's when we're never tracking how our business is going properly. And we might lose out on opportunities such as me finding a better supplier for our leather cleaner. And maybe we need to manufacture our own eventually. So this is opening my eyes. So I'm going to just put this into the sales forecast so you see. So we would take this field.
Ryan, maybe we can pause to see if there was any questions based on what you shared so far.
Yes, please. So as I put this in.
I don't see any hands or questions. Yeah.
I just want to keeper. There's like probably, I would say 10% of businesses that actually do what you're doing, Ryan. Like nobody really gets to the nitty gritty of their cost of goods sales like you do. And that's why a lot of businesses aren't thriving and know how to grow. And what they don't realize is once you do it initially, then it's done.
It's done.
But it takes work to get it done the first time, but it's going to give you such more accurate numbers that it's worth it to take that time. But if they don't have anybody to show them and go through it, like you were very meticulous, that's a great example of how you went through things. But a lot of people, like I have a lot of companies that are bakers, they don't know how much it costs to make a muffin. They
Right.
just want to sell the muffin, right? But they haven't
Yes.
taken the time to figure out a bag of flour gives me 10 muffins, or I need to use this much
Right.
salt. So I'm hoping I'm going to share some of this information with them to see that when you get down to the minutia, it really makes a difference. So great explanation of all that. I'll go over and over this recording quite a bit, even as a bookkeeper, because it was really insightful. So thank you.
Yeah, I appreciate that. Thanks, Bernadette. And that's where, because you're making a muffin, but like, what are the things that go into the muffin, and then breaking it down to see the cost. Once you do it once, and then you do it for your different products, it's done, and it'll be in the spreadsheet, and it's like becomes a mega document, because anybody that asks you that question, and especially when business owners are trying to get additional funding, and people start asking like, oh, so what are your costs of goods sold, and what's your cost of acquiring a customer? If you have it in a spreadsheet and you can speak to it, you look so much more competent to anybody that you're trying to pitch for money. So these numbers, and I know it's helped me sound smart when a person that I'm meeting with and they're pitching and I'm pitching, and it's like they try to trip you up to see if you know your numbers and you have it in the back end because you've done the calculation. It really shows that you're on top of your business and you're not just winging it.
And I guess that's your run at the Dragon's Den. You learned a lot from that experience.
Absolutely, and
Now
that's where if people
now
watch
you're
the
bringing it
show,
into business, yeah, and helping us understand things a lot better. So yeah, we learn from each experience that we take. Yeah.
100%. Absolutely. So this is where, so we've calculated, and using the car cleaning example. So typically, when we're cleaning a car, it takes 2 hours. So we're paying $22 an hour. So we have $44 per car clean cost of our labor. We calculated our solutions. So it costs us about $4.27 of solution to clean a car. So we know every time we're cleaning a car, it's costing us about $48. So you can say $50 in just like cost to execute a car clean. So you might have heard before, we used to actually sell our car cleaning for $60. So if we put 60 in here, you'll see, okay, we're making about $1,800, which if we remember our cash flow forecast, our expenses was $3,200. So these deficits, as the months go on, let's say there was $5,000 in my bank account. I'm cleaning so many cars a month. Let's say $30 every day. I'm cleaning a car, but the bank account is going backwards. So somebody had to sit me down and explain, what you're doing right now, you're going to be bankrupt in a certain amount of time because your bank account is going backwards. So we had to look at, okay, what is a better price for the actual service? And then it being around 129 worked out to be better. But now we're seeing, okay, it's 38.70, but the cash flow 38.70 looks good on paper because we looked at our expenses and it was 32. But if you notice, this deficit is still here because we're now calculating our cost of goods sold. So when Ryan is cleaning the car, these numbers, so the labor might come out and it'll be positive. But if I'm hiring a detailer to clean the car, this labor now comes in. And even if you're doing the work yourself, you should actually still put in the labor cost, because it'll make you realize, yeah, you need to get paid somehow. But if you're going to hire somebody else, you'll notice that it's negative. So this is where the pricing that we were doing, we actually realized our best package was our Emperor's Touch, which is 189. So with 189, we're able to say, okay, now we're making $5,600 in gross sales. The cog stays the same. So actually, this changes to 3. So let's say this changes to 3 hours. And then why is this not adding these together? Let me know if some of these fields don't add up. Oh, not plus. Sorry. This is multiply. So it's $66. So in the sales forecast or the cash flow forecast, we're going to change this to 66. You can even put it here just so it knows. So now our cost is here, but at the end of the month, we're actually in the positive. So as every month we're going into the positive, and this is taking into account all of our operations. So our entire month of operations, supplies that we're using, the labor that we're paying, the people or the things that we're paying monthly, after all that calculation and even paying a salary person. So really and truly, if you have a hold on, if we have a paid staff, like this person is probably a salesperson. So if they're only selling 30 details a month, they need to get fired. And this is where the numbers start to tell you if you're paying somebody to do sales and let's say they cost $2,000 and they're only generating 30 sales, then that is a waste of money because you're paying somebody and they're not bringing in the right amount of sales. So they should actually be bringing in, let's say, 90 details. And then we should be doing, 6,000 in profit, which covers their costs and you have some good buffer. So when you start paying people, you want to make sure that they are having a good return on investment. So let's say there's no salesperson, we're selling 30. Now we're going to be having about an $1,800 profit. And then for these months, we can start looking at, okay, maybe we can hire somebody so that we can increase these sales per month. And then even though that person costs us 2,000, if they're bringing in 15,000, or this would be, let's say it bumps up to 60. So now you're going from 5,000 to 11,000. It's worth it to hire this person. So every month you can be sitting down with your core team and really analyzing what is happening, because seeing these numbers and knowing that we have an extra $1,000, $1,500, we can put that into more Google ads or Facebook ads or any type of marketing so that we go from just 30 sales to 60 sales. Or we can hire somebody to say, hey, your focus is purely on sales so that we can go from 60 sales to 90 sales. And then the company can keep growing, and really building out your team to focus on specific areas is one thing that with Empowered Forex and with ACBN, we're working with entrepreneurs to do a better job of, because the better that we can build a team around you, the more exponential growth you're going to see in your actual company. So it pays to see first how we can become profitable, and then how we can kind of put fuel to the fire and bring on other people to focus on different areas. But you want to always be tracking. Like you always want to know what is happening in your business. How much sales are we making? How much is it costing us to execute those sales? And at the end of the month, based on this revenue, your cost to deliver, so your gross profit needs to be higher than your expenses and that you're profitable. If we see here that we're in the negative, something's got to give. Otherwise, the company will implode on itself. And so I've seen companies implode, and I'll tell you, it's not fun. So the earlier we can catch these things, the better that your business will be. And that's why we exist. I'll say that's why Empowered Forex exists. That's why ACBN, the Afro-Caribbean Business Network, exists, so that you don't have to go down the path of seeing the business struggle and you become stressful because you feel like you're alone and you don't have time to check these things. Tap our shoulders, lean on us. If this is overwhelming because you don't love spreadsheets as much as I do, definitely book a meeting with one of our team members or myself so that we can review this. And like we said, and Bernadette even said it, once it's done initially, it's front loaded work. So if you get this calculations and you kind of get it out of your head and onto paper, and then you can start seeing what's actually happening in the business, you can start making a lot better decisions and the business is going to be able to grow. So I'm going to pause there for this overview. Later on, we're going to talk about when we have revenue goals, how that actually allows us to figure out how much marketing effort we have to put in, but we'll save that for another day. I will pass it to Chris Beth and see if there's any specific questions maybe I could touch on, or if you wanted to open it up. But thank you for allowing me to geek out with you on this spreadsheet. And I'm hoping it was valuable and you're able to learn about how to track our expenses, calculate our cost of goods sold, and understand our startup costs so that we know, well, the sales portion is going to be a specific day, but I touched on it today so that we know what we should be selling our products for. I think that's a piece we typically, I know I got it so wrong. Like, you're doing so much work and undercharging, and the business feels like it's going backwards, even though you're doing so much work. So getting the pricing right definitely creates a lot less stress in the business. So yeah, we're going to dig into sales deeper as we're going through the marketing, but know that we're going to be using our expenses to understand where we should be selling. So yeah,
Hey, Ryan, thank you so much. Yes, and definitely, every time I see you go through this, I understand the exercise that I went through to get to my numbers as well. It is a valuable tool. So I wanted to just, open it up to folks that are on the line. And Ryan, one of the things that you did point out is sometimes when we're doing this exercise, we say we remove the line item where somebody should be getting paid, right? And by doing that, you're not getting a true sense of what the costs is entailed for you to run the business efficiently. When I was early in my business career, one of my coaches had asked me, Chris, but okay, you're not paying yourself right now, but imagine you invited someone to come onto your company and you say, you know what, I'll pay you someday. How long do you think that person would stay? Right. And so
right.
the answer is not very long. We're not saying we're opening up a charity, a nonprofit for people to volunteer. This is a business. So if revenue is coming in and you cannot account for your own wages in the beginning, furthermore, your team's wages, you're doing yourself an ultimate disservice. So why not start or restart by factoring in your costs? How much do you want to take home? Right. And being able to then say, okay, if I can take home X number, at what point can I bring in someone to support and build team? As Ryan says, we cannot do this alone. If we're talking about scaling, there are tools and resources that you can utilize to help you be more efficient. But one person show is not very productive in the long run, right? A lot of burnout and stresses happen in this way. And that's why we even say, as the entrepreneur, it's good for you to know your numbers. But again, go a step further. Don't do it in isolation. Find a bookkeeper, find the supports to help you continue to manage the numbers, right? So I'll pause. Ryan, if you want to stop sharing your screen, just opening it up to the folks that are on the line with us. I'm curious if you had a chance to follow along with Ryan today, if you want to just, come on and share some of the insight, ahas that you got from this experience. If you were, not able to go through the spreadsheet, we definitely recommend you go back. But maybe you could share with us something that you're taking away from this time together as well. So I'll just go. I'll call you by name. If you could unmute, Amanda, you were the first on my list.
Hi, good afternoon. Can you guys hear me okay?
Yes, we can.
I just wanted to make a comment. I thought that the presentation was really thorough, um, very insightful, and I took a lot of notes. I was like mentally, I took notes, and I'm going to re-watch the video when I have time to sit down because I'm in the kitchen right now. But I noticed this year, and I was telling my accountant that my financial advisor, sorry, that on paper I made so much money this year, but my bank account wasn't reflecting that, and I was so frustrated. So yes, I have to diligently look at the numbers. And yeah, I just want to thank you guys for this program.
Hey, thank you so much.
Hey,
Thank you.
appreciate
Thank you.
that.
Yeah. And it's so funny that you say, hey, money came in, but where did it all go? And I always remember listening, I think someone was interviewing Warren Buffett at one point, and he's like, he can account for every dollar, right? And
Mhm.
so that's the level of diligence that I know I need to get to, and that's the level of diligence we all need to get to, right? And I think it just simply means like when money comes in, because you understand the back end of your business, you could now say, this amount is allotted to my profit account. Is money going somewhere else? My current business coach calls it the fund tokens. Most people do not set aside with the fund tokens or the profit account. You're making choices. Hey, I want to give away more. I want to do this with my profit. I want to reinvest it. But most of us, and I'm guilty, as I shared yesterday, I'm also in the process of restructuring my own, financial management that is happening within our organization so that we could be more efficient, so that I can account for every dollar. That is the goal. That is the goal. So thanks, Amanda, for sharing.
Yeah, there was there's different videos about it, but check out the psychology of $10,000 in the bank
Yeah.
account and how it
On YouTube?
changes your mindset, changes how you see the world and move through the world. And then what this cash flow projection spreadsheet can show you is how long would it take you to have $10,000 saved up. And when I initially did the exercise for myself, it was going to take me like 22 years
Oh,
to
wow.
see $10,000 in the bank account. So things had to change. And then as we were able to shift things and change it, and then you can say, okay, in 6 months, there could be $10,000 there. And that is going to have a fundamental shift on how you're able to just live your life. So that psychology of 10,000, it was a really interesting YouTube video that I watched that just showed you how you the stress levels in your life change when you
Yes.
hit certain milestones, and that was the biggest milestone, bigger than 100,000, bigger than a million, is that first 10,000 that is in your bank account. So the faster we can help all of us get there, I know our mental health is going to improve.
I just wanted to say one more thing. I think I've been doing this for a while, and I think the one thing that I had fear of is teaching people and letting them get it right, my recipes and the way I do things. And I it's like, when you want something done right, you do it yourself. But I have to let go of that fear and just let other people mess up, learn from it, and continue on so that I can learn the books because I need to learn the books because it's my business.
Yes.
Valid.
Hey,
Yeah.
it sounds like you are in the kitchen, Amanda. Like a bake,
Yes,
you're a baker. What do you
I'm a
make?
chef. I
A
make
chef.
everything,
Okay.
everything.
Okay. And so one of the things, and I applaud you for the work that you're doing. We love food. I love food. So yes, please put your details in the chat. We'll come find you. But one of the books that both Ryan and I read early on in our connection was the E-Myth by Michael Gerber. An example he used in there was the story of a baker, right? She was
Oh,
one
yes.
doing everything, and then it was like, oh, you bring people, but they don't do it right, and all of these things, right? So we know whether you're in the kitchen or not in the kitchen, whatever the nature of your business is, I think we have to go back to why am I doing this business? What is the long-term vision around this business? And if we truly have those answers, we could then figure out the structure that we want, that we should be on mission to build versus, I'm gonna keep everything close to chest because I'm afraid people are gonna steal my recipe. I'm afraid of people gonna take my intellectual property, all of these things. That book, The E-Myth by Michael Gerber, I would say he talks about structuring our businesses like a franchise, right? And it's not to say everybody needs to go and franchise, but when we look at our business, I'll speak to my own business. I I still am, less so now more, but I could say I'm the biggest bottleneck in my business growth because everything must still pass through Crispet, must get my approval. And I'm like, I don't have enough time, to do all of those things. And it truly comes with the power of delegation, the power of building out that infrastructure. So we're all on a journey, not to be, super critical of the past, but give time to evaluate and let's figure out how we move forward, right? So that's where I'm at. I used to say when I'm on vacation, my business was on vacation. When I was sick, my business was sick. Today, those things are not true anymore. But yes, there's still many things that I am responsible for that you would learn. We all will learn, right? I think we need to do business better, hence the reason we show up in spaces like this as well, right? We're taking in the information so that we can do something about it. So thank you. And I recommend that book to you. And I see your hand raised.
Yeah, good information from Ryan as always. Putting that out there, very informative. I always say, in any business, what we have to do when we get prices right. I love Tyler Perry's philosophy: act like you're broke, no matter how much money you have in your bank. Watch every penny coming in and out, and I that's my philosophy. I act like I'm broke, because I watch my pennies. And this is the thing. What I've learned is once you get your pricing right and you tell people this is the price and I can't go lower than this, because then you're going at a loss, they get upset with you because they want you to
Okay.
give them the price at a loss, right? And when you refuse to do that, they don't like it. But
Right.
I always say, as long as you sleep well at night and you're doing it correctly and you try your best to help people with pricing,
Hmm.
and because it has to be a win-win, it can't be a lose-lose, right? So you try to be fair across the board, but once you get it right, yeah, you got to stick to your guns. You have to say this is what the price is. This is the lowest price that I can give someone without going at a loss, right?
Right.
And I check everything, yeah, in both aspects, whether it's my cozy, because every single thing I put on that container is a price. The lid, the filters for the bottles, the lid, every single thing is a cost that I
True.
have to pay for, right? So at the end of the day, once you stick to your guns, yes, you can make some segues. If you can afford to make a segue, if someone really needs it and you have to segue, that's fine. But if you really stick to your guns, you're people are not going to be happy. But as long as you're happy and you're being correct, at the end of the day, that is fire. Because
Hmm.
Afrocentric businesses, they really need to stick to this is I'm well educated, well learned, and I'm coming to you with this best amount, and this is the best that I can do, because I had a client really get upset at a price. I'm like, that's the lowest I can go. I can't go any lower than that, because if I go lower, it doesn't even make sense anymore. And they don't look that you're running a business, right? They think that you can just give it to them for whatever price. But once
Right.
you understand and you know what you're supposed to be doing, it's all good. That's what I have to say. But you guys are doing a good job with this. Love it.
Hey, thank you so much, and thank you, thank you. Um, Bernadette, I don't know if you wanted to share any final thoughts.